Hello, everyone. I'm Josh Revels, the Education Outreach Specialist at the Katherine Johnson NASA Independent Verification and Validation Facility in Fairmont, West Virginia. Would like to thank you all for joining me for this version of our Stellarium Planetarium show called Winter Constellations. Now, nothing says stargazing like a brisk winter night. Have you ever noticed on these cold days in the Northern Hemisphere winter how the sun looks close enough to jump up and touch? Although that is only a fantasy, it is true that the sun's angle with respect to the location we are standing here on the Earth's surface has changed, which, by the way, our latitude here in Fairmont is about 39 degrees north. So this change in position as the Earth revolves around the sun is due to the tilt of the Earth's axis. The northern hemisphere being tilted toward the sun during the summer causes for more direct sunlight in warmer days. And as we travel closer to the winter, the sun's angle gets lower and lower in the sky or becomes more oblique. And so with these weaker rays of sunlight reaching the surface, the days become cooler. And so here we are in December. Let's watch the position of the sun change each day. Watch how the sun gets lower and lower in the sky as we approach the winter solstice on December 21st. So what happens to the position of the sun on the days following the winter solstice? Well, let's watch. You can see that it's starting to get higher in the sky again. So the winter solstice marks the sun's lowest position in the sky for the northern hemisphere observers. It occurs in December on the 21st or the 22nd, and because this low position as the sun rises and sets that day, the northern hemisphere actually experiences the least number of hours of daylight. And we also experience the longest nighttime of the year. So the effects of the sun's low declination are felt all throughout the winter. Colder weather prevails until the emergence of spring during the vernal equinox in March. Now, throughout the show, we'll be looking at the constellations that are visible just after sunset and throughout the nights in December, January, and February, which I affectionately term the winter constellations. Here we are at about, let's move it up one more hour to about 7 p.m. Eastern Time, as the stars begin to appear. So rising over in the east is arguably everyone's favorite winter constellation, Orion. Due to its location along the celestial equator, it is visible to both northern and some southern hemisphere observers and directly overhead in the center of the sky if you're observing along the Earth's equator. Orion is easy to spot in the sky due to an asterism of three bright stars, which are close together in the sky. The three stars have an interesting alignment, with theories that suggest that the three main pyramids of Giza were constructed to match this alignment of these three stars that make up the asterism known as Orion's belt. The stars Al-Natak, Al-Nilam, and Mintaka are those stars that I'm referring to. And so these stars of Orion's belt are very famous and very easy to spot because they're so close together in the sky. Now, just below Orion's belt is the Great Orion Nebula. If you have a telescope that you can use to try to spot this, it's definitely worth your time. You see this beautiful iridescent play of colors, and they're caused by light from newly born stars interacting with this interstellar cloud of gas and dust that it formed within. Nebulae are known as stellar nurseries, a place where new stars are born. One of my favorite things about the Orion constellation is that we not only can find new baby stars, But we can also see very dramatic stages of life for older stars occurring in this region of the sky. Up above Orion's belt is a very bright red star that's visible. This is the star Betelgeuse, which translates from Arabic as the giant's shoulder. Betelgeuse is a red supergiant pulsating variable star. This indicates to astronomers that this star is reaching the end of its time as a normal main sequence star because the balance between gravity and the thermal pressure, which is created from nuclear fusion, is becoming unbalanced. The star grows and shrinks, which causes a change in apparent brightness. The star is brightest at 0.2 and changes to a dimmer 1.2 apparent brightness and alternates back and forth in about 400 days. This supergiant star is one of the largest stars known and thought to be 950 times larger than the Sun. Some speculate the star will experience a supernova explosion any day now, or perhaps it already has. Observers on Earth see the star as it was about 604 years ago. This is due to it being about 640 light years in distance away from the Earth. However, Betelgeuse is only the second brightest star in the constellation Orion. At the kneecap of Orion is the brilliant blue-white supergiant star Rigel. The main difference between the colors of these stars is the temperature of the star. Rigel is much hotter at approximately 12,000 degrees Kelvin at the surface and is even further away at about 860 light years. Now, according to Greek myth, Orion was a very skillful hunter. Many mortals saw Orion as a braggart, but didn't really consider him to be very smart. Kind of fitting that the stars of Maisa, which are here at the head of Orion, are rather dim. So it was difficult, though, to contest Orion's hunting skills. You can see a huge club above his head extending from Betelgeuse, and at the other shoulder star, Bellatrix, you can see Orion holding out a shield to protect himself from anything that might have been attacking him while he was out hunting. Orion's confidence actually got to the point that the Olympic gods took notice in order to remind Orion that he was just a mortal and not invincible. The gods devised a plan that would only temporarily hurt Orion to remind him that he was just that. They decided to release a scorpion where Orion was hunting to kind of sting or either bite his leg. However, Orion had a much worse reaction to the venom than what was planned, and he ended up dying. So the gods felt remorse, and so in order to honor Orion, they decided to place his body in the stars where many could admire him and his hunting skills forever. They also retrieved the scorpion and placed it on the complete opposite side of the sky to guarantee that the scorpion could never reach Orion again. And we know that as the constellation Scorpius. And that can be seen coming up just before the sun begins to rise and as Orion falls below the horizon in the mornings of the winter. Also rising in the sky just a couple hours after Orion are his two hunting dogs, which he raised from pups. Canis Minor, seen shown here, rising, and then Canis Major, which is yet to come up above the horizon. And there's Canis Major, being the bigger dog of the two. Now, extending a link from Betelgeuse to the south to the brightest star in the nighttime sky, Sirius. And then if you form a triangle with the star Procyon, which is the eighth brightest star in the sky and just dimmer than Rigel, you'll make this triangle formation that'll help you find Orion's hunting dogs. And this triangle is an asterism known as the winter triangle. Now, if we go to Procyon and move towards the north to a collection of bright stars, they're actually the heads, the head stars of the Gemini twins, Castor and Pollux. Now, Gemini is a zodiac constellation and also the site of the Geminid, I think I'm saying that correctly, meteor shower, the Geminid meteor shower, which peaks on December 13th or 14th. And these meteor showers are unlike most as they are not generated from the debris tails of comets. Instead, they are rocks that are falling away from an asteroid that follows a comet-like orbit around the sun. And so the illumination of these meteors are quick and very white and bright with bold streaks that form across the sky. You may have seen the videos of this meteor shower occurring during an aurora in 2020. Now, if we go up higher in the sky, closer to above our heads, from Pollux, moving straight up, you'll find this bright star, Capella. And so this is where the constellation of Auriga is, and I'm probably not pronouncing that one correctly either. But Capella is the brightest of the stars uh, that is in a group of stars that are like our sun, in a special spectral class that our sun falls in. And so, unlike Betelgeuse, which is a super red giant, and unlike Rigel, which is a super blue giant star, Capella and our sun are in the middle of these. And there are types of stars known as main sequence stars. Capella is a yellow star and the brightest of this spectral class, and it's the sixth brightest star in the nighttime sky. Main sequence stars are those that actually experience balance in their cores. The rate of energy radiating out due to nuclear fusion is balanced by the force of gravity pulling the material inward. So they're in a state of equilibrium, those two forces. So that keeps the star kind of stable and it doesn't get any brighter or dimmer uh, in short periods of time or periodically for that matter. Now, Capella is known as the goat star and represents the goat that helped raise baby Zeus. The goat is often depicted on the shoulder of the charioteer named Myrtilus, which is interpreted as Auriga or Auriga in this constellation. So Myrtilus was chosen by King Ominous, or gosh, these names are sometimes hard to say, Onomus, and to race against any man that who would challenge him in efforts that would actually want to marry his daughter. And so the stakes were high for everyone involved. For the challengers, when they won, the king must allow his daughter to be married to them. And if they lost, it would cost them their life. So, of course, the contest was never fair. The horses attached to Myrtilus's chariot were none other than the horses of the Olympic god Ares, which resulted in many deaths for the challenging men. Things became a bit more fair, though, when the Olympic god Hermes' son entered the competition. He was given a golden chariot with golden winged horses. And that was not all, though. The king's daughter actually fell in love with Hermes' son, who actually convinced Myrtilus to tamper with the wheels of the king's chariot prior to the race. The king had lost the race and was carried off to his death. However, instead of granting the wishes of Myrtilus as promised, the son of Hermes actually caused his death instead, and therefore he was placed in the sky with the goat. Back to the south just a bit, and closer to Orion, is a fiery bright orange red star named Aldebaran. The name of this star translates to the follower, and is named such because it is seen chasing the Pleiades star cluster through the sky. And so you can see that star cluster just above Aldebaran here. There's a group of what appears to be 7 stars. Some people can only see 6 stars, and that's just due to differences in their vision or even atmospheric distortion. So the bullseye, however, is the 13th brightest star in the sky, nighttime sky, and the brightest of the constellation Taurus. Zeus would often take the form of the bull and even turn others into the bull when completing tasks for him. And so you know you have found this constellation if you can find Aldebaran by looking in a line straight up from Rigel. And so once you find Taurus, the constellation Taurus and the star Aldebaran, you will be able to, use a pair of binoculars or even a telescope to help you look closer at the Pleiades star cluster. I'm just going to zoom in there. Now, the Pleiades were the 7 daughters of Atlas, who was seen as the Titan who was responsible for holding the heavens up in the sky. Now, not only did the Greeks observe this cluster, but also the Polynesians. One legend describes the Polynesian god Tane as being jealous of what was once a single large star that would brag about its beauty. And so, as a consequence of this bragging, Tane smashed the star and caused it to shatter into the pieces of the Pleiades star cluster. Now, before we end this show, um, I want to point out one final asterism in the winter sky for you. So, you probably remember talking about the winter triangle, the Betelgeuse to Procyon to Sirius and back to Betelgeuse. But we also have what's known as a winter hexagon. And so this starts with Rigel, goes down to Sirius at an angle, and then back up at almost the same exact angle in the other direction to Procyon, and then up the side to Pollux, and then from Pollux up at an angle to Capella, and then back down at a similar angle to Aldebaran, and then back down the opposite side to Rigel, forms this hexagon shape known as the winter hexagon. And so you can observe these constellations about 7 o'clock at night in late December and January as they come up above the horizon. And then they're visible throughout the evenings, throughout the winter months, as they trek across the sky overnight. And then in the morning, they set below the horizon again. And remember, if you're up early in the morning and you're at this experience, you want to experience this change from night to day, try to find the constellation Scorpius before the sun comes up, which is going to be in the east as Orion starts setting in the west. And there it is, just to the southeast before the sun comes up. Okay, thank you for joining me for Winter Constellations. And make sure you check out the other ones as well. We have a constellation show for the spring, for the summer, and also for the fall. And there'll be a lot more content added. So come back and watch again.